Hello adventurer and welcome to the Guild Hall. I'm the Guildmaster and this is where each week we discuss all things Dungeons & Dragons and anime. Over the past several weeks, we've been reviewing the second season of The Rising of the Shield Hero. Coming soon, we have some amazing new content coming your way, including videos on how to play your favorite anime characters in the world of D&D, as well as anime-inspired builds for some of the most popular 5e subclasses. And one big, major, super exciting project that we'll share more about real soon. So make sure to like and subscribe so you never miss out on the adventure. Okay, so The Rising of the Shield Hero Season 2 Episode 3 titled Shaking Land was released earlier this week. And frankly, this season has consistently improved with each new episode. We're going to dive into what happened and how a DM might draw inspiration, so spoilers do lay ahead. You have been forewarned. Going back just a little bit further, the second episode was dominated by exposition that went a long way to setting the stage and establishing the stakes for this week's episode that was packed with action as well as a number of surprises. This week's episode begins with the emergence of the Spirit Tortoise, one of the legendary monsters that normally only appears when absolutely necessary to harvest souls to fight against the waves of calamity. Naofumi, along with the gathered troops, prepares to engage, and as he rides onto the battlefield, he flies the flag of the Shield Hero, drawing rousing cheers from the assembled soldiers. One thing that this show has done really well is set up a dynamic where Naofumi and the party are often at odds with the power and authority, but through their actions are able to win the support of the common man. I have to admit that when Naofumi was riding across the field and he spots a young soldier who has supported the party since the very first wave, it definitely hit me in the heartstrings a bit. As a dungeon master, I think this could be a great concept to bring into a campaign. Set up a world where there are a lot of differing agendas and less than benevolent attitudes amongst the aristocracy towards your party. As your player characters rise up in prominence, they will run up against powerful adversaries like short-sighted royalty or influential but petty and narcissistic guild leaders who spread rumors and misinformation about the party to advance their own selfish goals. At the same time, however, there is something of a grassroots movement in favor of the party, as the commoners they encounter spread positive renown and help counteract the negative reputation spread by the aristocracy. This could lead to a lot more interesting social interaction as the party navigates local politics. Perhaps the town mayor sees himself as a patriot and readily accepts any news from the capital as fact and is therefore highly suspicious of the party, while the blacksmith's nephew is a soldier your party saved recently, so he's more than happy to give your fighter a discount on purchases in his shop. At the onset of the battle, Naofumi and the party ride past the aforementioned soldiers and are soon set upon by a colony of bat-like monsters. We get several nice shots of the main cast that is now really looking like a well-balanced D&D party. Rathfalia is our fighter. I like to think of Philo as something of a druid fighter. Baba is our monk character, and Ost, getting her powers from the tortoise, works nicely as a warlock. And Rashia, I would guess, is probably a wizard? Now, it can be difficult for a DM to run large-scale battles like this, but again, this episode offers some nice options and inspiration. If you want to prolong your battle and raise the stakes, certainly keeping your party from being able to engage with the big bad by having a number of swarms run intercept could work out really nicely. Also, consider giving the situation tasks that need to be completed before the big bad can be fought head on. The reason the party must fight the swarms of minions is because they need to buy time for the siege weapons and sappers from the king's army to soften up the big bad's defenses enough for the party to make the final attack. In the last episode, I predicted that Rashia would discover some hidden information about the Spirit Tortoise from digging through the library, and that the party wouldn't be able to defeat the Spirit Tortoise in just one episode. While I was correct in both predictions, what and how these things happened were surprisingly and satisfyingly different than how I predicted they would occur. First, rather than racing against the clock to get Naofumi critical information on how to defeat the tortoise, Rashia is with the party from the start. But we find out that she decided to bring to the battle a book about the tortoise, which seems like probably something everyone should have read ahead of time. Because it ends up that the spirit tortoise has legendary actions and a ranged attack option. So this forces Naofumi's hand a bit, and he calls for plan B, which is to have a bunch of clerics cast a mass ritual and bring a holy smite down on the tortoise. Meanwhile, as he and the party approaches, they're stopped by a mid-level boss, an abomination of several different types of familiars Frankenstein together. O steps up though and uses some gravity magic, and the dinosaur lesser dragon riding knights leap into action, allowing Naofumi and the core of the party to attack the spirit tortoise. At this point, there are only a few minutes left in the episode, so I was expecting either the emergence of a new adversary, maybe the man with glasses we've seen pulling the strings, or simply ending the episode with the party squaring up against the tortoise. In reality, though, they were able to dispatch the tortoise in just about a minute and a half by chopping off its head. Granted, the clerics did give them the chance they needed with that holy smite. Still, I was feeling pretty let down by how quickly they were able to dispatch this supposedly legendary creature. I mean, if we think about the ancient dragons, for instance, I think the lowest CR rating is a 19 and it goes up into the mid-20s. And I would think that's a pretty good comparison to what the show has hyped up this legendary creature to be. This is a feeling a lot of DMs know all too well when they see the party annihilate a monster encounter that the DM has spent weeks preparing. But then, the show pulled a fast one on us, which I really did enjoy. Several times throughout the episode, and the prior to as well, the expectation was established that when the tortoise was defeated, Ost, being its familiar, would also cease to exist. This is something that she has made peace with and in fact desires, as it would mean the tortoise would no longer be controlled by some unknown entity, and also countless lives could be spared. Yet, as the decapitated spirit tortoise lays defeated on the ground, and as the survivors revel in their glorious victory, well, Ost is still there. Clearly, everyone is pretty surprised by this, and she is left to point out the now all too obvious fact that they probably have not actually defeated the spirit tortoise. Bummer. Well, actually, as a fan of the show, I was pretty happy about this. A lot of times in anime, the adversary is, frankly, overhyped, and their all too quick defeat is inevitably a letdown. Also, this show in particular has repeatedly chastised the other heroes for rushing in to kill a monster without thinking through the possible ramifications. To do that here would catch Naofumi acting highly hypocritical, and I'd argue he already is acting as such, but he's getting bailed out by changing circumstances. But as a DM, this situation is kind of cool because we have several ways we could run this. Thanks to Fizzbands, we know about draconic aspects, which we could easily apply to any creature with sufficient power being able to create or manifest avatars of themselves. Also, any number of creatures, like elementals or licks, often have the ability to escape death, and when they drop to 0 hit points are resurrected somewhere else. In episode 2, we saw the suspected villain staring menacingly at a crystal deep within a mountain cave. My guess is that this crystal is something of a phylactery for the spirit tortoise, and what the party just fought was merely an aspect of the actual tortoise. My final thoughts on this episode are that it gets 4 out of 5 stars from me. We got exciting action, emotional interaction with the NPCs, and a handful of unexpected twists and turns. When it comes to drawing inspiration for D&D, this episode was a knockout. Since the beginning of the season, I have been more and more intrigued by the idea of a campaign heavily inspired by this story unfolding here. Imagine a band of adventurers who have to deal with the fallout of an unexpected dragon tortoise rampage. Like in the show, this dragon tortoise has a small army of lesser monsters that follow behind it, feeding off the carnage. What do your adventurers do? Check on their families? Try to locate the royal family? Defend against the swarms of remaining monsters? Eventually, they begin to learn that perhaps this wasn't just bad luck, but the result of evil designs, and they set out to ensure that such an attack can never happen again. I don't know, but sounds like a pretty fun campaign to me. Let me know what you thought of this episode and the second season in general in the comments below. You can also visit the Guild Hall on Twitter, Instagram, Discord, and TikTok by following the links in the description. Check back in soon as there is a ton of amazing content coming your way, and as always, adventurer, until next time, safe journeys.